What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to another True Raider podcast. Now, I know I've been putting out all these videos about Jayden Daniels, but really that's what's really relevant right now, at least for me, right? Because I keep seeing all these things and I've been putting out these videos, and in the comments, people are telling me it's not going to happen, just get over it. But then as the days go on, there's just more and more smoke that just kind of leads to this being actually a reality for the Las Vegas Raiders. So the first thing I want to share with you guys, man, is Adam Schefter said that the visit with the Commanders didn't seem to go over too well with Jayden Daniels' agent, who sounded off on social media that he didn't seem particularly pleased with the process. Daniels thought it would be a visit for just him. Now, I talked about this in the last video, right? But I felt like it was pretty disrespectful for the Commanders to do the process the way they did. Yeah, bringing in a lot of prospects. I think they had 22 people in the building. That is what it is, right? There's other teams that do that. But what I haven't heard of other teams doing is bringing in four quarterback prospects at the same time, especially because Jayden Daniels is projected to go at number two. And being in the position that he's projected to go number two, I think what happened was the Commanders, brought in all these other quarterbacks. And I would take that personally as an insult, basically saying, hey, we're not sold on you. We're not convinced you're going to be the guy. So we want to bring these other guys in because we're probably going to make a different decision, right? So another thing that Adam Schefter said was that um, Jayden Daniels has an interest in being other places, right? And one of the teams he mentioned, this was on the Pat McAfee show, was the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And it's no secret, Jayden Daniels would love to play for Antonio Pierce and Marvin Lewis. And Marvin Lewis and Antonio Pierce would love to get Jayden Daniels. This has not been a secret at all. So, I mean, I don't think that he's doing the whole John Elway, Eli Manning thing, trying to push his way out, as much as there's just really not a fit for, his team and the Commanders. So I don't know, man. Speculate all you want. I don't think that the Commanders are going to choose Jayden Daniels. For Jayden Daniels' agent to start tweeting these things off, right? And while he's tweeting these things off, there was several other things that he liked on Twitter, right? Let me see if I could pull those up real quick, right? One of those, he liked a post where Mike Florio uh of sorry, it's this is yeah, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk bashes the Commanders for bringing in four quarterback prospects all at once rather than individually. Why would you dilute your ability to get maximum time and just the opportunity to evaluate? You're trying to evaluate four guys at once. And Jayden Daniels' agent liked this tweet, right? And people in these kind of positions, they know that there's tons of people out here that are just watching their every move on social media. They're trying to see, if they could get any kind of hints on, where people are leaning or what might happen, and so when somebody goes through and likes a tweet like that, I think it's very clear, right? And there was a thing, and I put out a video yesterday about it where he had retweeted, a post of a video where Mike Florio was talking about this, and he had it with the emoji that's like, and that speaks volumes to me, right? Another tweet that he liked, it said, how many companies do this? Puts them around their peers, bring players from the team along and see how they interact. Who the F cares how they interact with players they will never play with? This doesn't make sense to me. And Jayden Daniels' agent liked this tweet as well. So, I mean, I'm really strong, that where there's smoke, there's going to be fire, right? Like all this stuff doesn't just pop out and it's like, oh, that was by mistake. I think that there's really purpose behind all of this. So, there's a lot of other things that have been kind of just leading towards Jayden Daniels and the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And for me, it all started during Jayden Daniels' Heisman Trophy speech, where he mentioned Antonio Pierce and Marvin Lewis, right? Now, Marvin Lewis is the Las Vegas Raiders assistant head coach. So we have both our main coaches for the Las Vegas Raiders mentioned by this guy in his trophy speech, right? Um, And I don't think that that's really a mistake. Then we got, all this stuff where I was just talking about where Adam Schefter says that Daniels and his camp are not pleased with the Commanders. And I've been saying this for a while that, like, there was some rumors that went out a while back, and people have been hitting me in the comments of like, oh, that was debunked, da da da. And it really wasn't, right? And the rumors where let me pull this up real quick, where there was Eric Eric Bickel, the Sports Junkies co-host, NBC Sports Washington, said his son showed him a text from a friend in Illinois during the weekend of March 2nd and 3rd. And this text was saying that basically, the story was that Brandon Ayuk and Jayden Daniels were teammates back in Arizona. And Brandon Ayuk had introduced Jayden Daniels to Adam Peters, who was the assistant manager over at the 49ers during the time. And now he's the general manager with the Commanders. And that what Adam Peters told Jayden Daniels, supposedly, was that his talents weren't going to translate to the NFL level and that he was going to be a 5th-round draft pick at best, right? And, that's not what got shot down, right? Because what was happening, the same day that went out, there was also some stuff on social media saying that Jayden didn't want to play for the Patriots, right? And Jayden Daniels got on social media and he said that that was cap, and he did not mention anything about the Commander story being cap at all, right? So if he's going to be on social media that day and he's going to speak out saying, hey, that's cap, that never happened, why wouldn't he mention something like that when it comes to the rumors with the Commanders? So that's very interesting to me, right? And then there's a couple other things, right? There was a hit. Jayden Daniels and Malik Neighbors were on an Instagram live, right? I made a video about that as well. And on this live, Malik Neighbors is like, I'm gonna tell y'all, where he's going, right? Where Jayden Daniels is going. He might be teaming up or partnering up with his old homie. And Jayden Daniels' reaction to that was like, is almost kind of like he knew something and was afraid Malik Neighbors was actually leaking information, right? And when he said that, a lot of people, they maybe Brandon Ayuk is going to get traded over to the Commanders and da 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 da. And then people said, "Oh, Antonio Pierce, I don't think he'd really be calling him his homie." It's like, well, Antonio Pierce is all, I'm from Compton, drives a 64 Impala lowrider. You could call him your homie, right? But besides that, Jack Jones is also Jayden Daniels' homie, right? He's been, posting on social media, bringing JD5. So I think that there's, more and more smoke leads to more and more odds that Jayden Daniels has a chance of coming over to the Raiders. There was another thing that Adam Peters' friend links Drake May to Washington, right? And this is Daniel Jeremiah. And Daniel Jeremiah, he was talking about, like, in terms of what they're going to do, honestly, I've known Washington general manager Adam Peters forever. He's not going to say a word. I think all of us are going to find out who they're picking once they get on the clock and turn the card there in Detroit. I've been connecting them to Drake May for a long time. I just feel like that fit there. I think about Dan Quinn going to a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan and what Matt Ryan was coming out, strengths, weaknesses, and I thought it actually married up pretty well with Drake. So that had been my connection there. So, Jeremiah, who is just, he's not just reporting on this, but he's actually friends with Adam Peters. Even he is kind of throwing it out there of Drake May, right? And there's that connection with Drake May. And that's really the takeaway that I got out of, they had this meeting with 22 players, 4 quarterbacks. Jayden Daniels and his camp are obviously not very happy. And it seemed like right away after these meetings were done is when Jayden Daniels' agent started putting this stuff on social media. That tells me that they already know what the answer is there. They might not know who the Commanders are going to pick. I think it's probably going to be Drake May, but they probably know that the connection is just not there. And there had been some rumors a couple weeks back that, the meetings with Jayden Daniels and the Commanders didn't go well. And everybody says, oh, there's no validity to this claim, this and that. Well, now all of a sudden it's looking more and more like that, right? Um, and there's just a lot of things. You even have content creators from the Commanders that are starting to be in this position where they don't really believe Jayden Daniels is going to go there either. And a couple days ago, I had people in my comment section. For some reason, Commanders fans keep finding my videos, and shout out to you, man. Keep commenting on my videos. I will answer all your comments, right? But a lot of people were just like, "Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Get over it. We're taking JD5," and now their tune is kind of changed, right? People are not commenting as much, and the ones who are from the Commanders fans um, are more like, not so sure anymore, right? I don't know what they're going to do. It's a new regime, it's a new, ownership, all this stuff, and so even they are starting to get pretty skeptical, right? And even the Commanders Report host, he said, I gotta say, this isn't exactly a great start to their potential relationship together if Daniels is letting it known publicly that he's not a fan of the way Washington is handling the process. May at number 2 is getting more likely by the day. And that's really huge, right? Because I don't think that if you are planning on going to a team that you're going to let any kind of that stuff slip, right? Because you want to keep good PR. You want the fan base to be happy with you. You want the staff to be happy with you. You want everybody all the way around to be happy. And that is not what we're seeing so far. And I think it would be a bad decision by Washington to go ahead and pick up Jayden Daniels anyway, even though there's all this stuff going on. Another thing I wanted to talk about real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up. I went the wrong way. ESPN. Now, ESPN, right? We got, when I put out this video, people were like, no, no, not reliable sources, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you got the mainstream media that's talking about this, right? And Adam Schefter and ESPN, and ESPN put out a bunch of, kind of like draft scenarios for a lot of teams, right? And Raiders were really mentioned a lot, which is strange to me, right? All of a sudden, we're getting mentioned mainstream media, right? Because we get no love over there, man. Um, But Bill Barnwell from ESPN said, Spring has sprung, the flowers are blooming, the birds are chirping, and given that we're a week out from the 2024 NFL draft, it's time for my favorite column of the offseason. Yes, today it's time for my annual mock draft that consists entirely of trades. For each of the 32 picks in round one, I'll give you a trade that might, emphasis on might, make sense. So there's several different trade options that they threw out there. And the trade idea number one was between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots, right? And we were talking about this just a couple of days ago, where it was like, we kind of had a projection of what it might cost with the Commanders, but we didn't have that with the Patriots, right? And I think that this is a realistic option. And honestly, if this is the option, I would take it any day of the week, right? And so, first off, the Patriots, what they would receive from us is the 2024, 25, and 26 first round picks and the 2024 second round pick. Now, what we would receive in return for this would be 2024 first round pick, that's pick number 3, 2025 fifth round pick, and a 2026 third round pick. Now, a lot of people in the nation are looking at this as like, this is way too expensive. We need to keep our draft capital, build our team. We have holes, all this stuff. And really, we don't have a lot of big holes. We have a couple of needs, right? We do need one or two people on our offensive line, and we do need a corner, but that's really about it, right? And most of the starting players that we have on our roster were not first round picks. Look at Max Crosby. He was a fourth round pick. So you have all these really talented players that were picked up in the later rounds that are starters for us, that are good starters, I don't see why we don't go ahead and pull the trigger on this, right? Because if we really capture the quarterback that we need, we're not going to miss those picks. You know, people are arguing, oh, if you put Jayden Daniels in there and he doesn't have a really solid offensive line, he's going to fail. I don't think he's going to fail. Honestly, I mean, we lost Greg Van Roten and Jermaine Illuminor. Now, Jermaine Illuminor, he was pretty good, right? But there was some game like against the Chargers where Khalil Mack got 6 sacks on Aiden O'Connell by himself, right? I don't think that we're missing out too much on that. And out of those 6 sacks, how many sacks is Jayden Daniels taking in that position? I think a lot less, right? Because Jayden Daniels knows how to maneuver in the pocket. He knows how to run. He knows how to throw on the run. There's a lot more threats that Jayden Daniels brings that somebody like Aiden O'Connell does not, right? And so there was a couple other draft scenarios that they were talking about where, maybe we trade with the Falcons for the number 8 pick. We would trade pick 13 and our third round pick from this year, number 77, and Malcolm Kuntz. Now, the only reason why we would do this trade, in my eyes, because I don't think it's worth trading up for anybody else in the draft but Jayden Daniels, right? I would love to pick up Michael Penix Jr. at 13. I would love to pick up Drake May, who's not going to fall that far, at 13. JJ McCarthy, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really there, right? If we don't get Jayden Daniels or Michael Penix or maybe a Drake May, I would want to pick up either a right tackle or a corner at pick 13, right? But if we were to trade up to number 8, really the scenario behind that would be if we move up into the top 10 and we're trading this year's first and a third and a player, then that means that we could trade the number 8 pick from this year and first round draft picks from the next 2 years in order to move into that number 3 spot. So that way there's more incentive for the Patriots to move back because they'd only be moving back 5 spaces instead of 10. That's not a bad idea, but I would hate to see Malcolm Kuntz go. Now, Malcolm Kuntz in the last 9 games, he had 9 starts and 8 sacks. That is huge. And to have 8 sacks in that little amount of time, that tells me he's going to have a breakout year this year, especially with the additions to our defensive line with Christian Wilkins. We brought back John Jenkins. We brought back Adam Butler. I think that our line is going to be insane, and Malcolm Kuntz is going to probably get more than 10 sacks, right? And if he gets between 10 and 15 sacks, there's going to be a team next year. He's in a contract year. There's going to be a team that offers him a bunch of money, and it's probably not going to be us. So if we could use him in order to go get our quarterback of the future, I wouldn't be extremely mad, but I would really rather to go in other directions, right? Because I would love to have Malcolm Kuntz on our team in this coming year. Um, but yeah, I mean, basically, that's really all the scenarios put out by ESPN that I really want to talk about. They had a lot of other scenarios which I don't think are as likely, and I think that that's also what's happening with a lot of the content creators out here, and a lot of the fans, right? Like a lot of us would love to have Jayden Daniels, right? Let's say that you don't have to move on from any draft capital and you can pick him up at 13. I think very few people are going to say no to that, right? I think a lot of people are kind of afraid to get their feelings hurt, right? Because I know for me, I'm really invested in the Raiders drafting Jayden Daniels, right? And if they don't, honestly, it's going to kind of hurt my feelings, right? But I can't just be all my feels about it. I'm also looking at it logically of, okay, cool, that wasn't in the best cards for us. What's next down the line? Do we pick up Michael Penix Jr. 13? If that's not available and Michael Penix goes in the top 10, then I'm looking at, do we pull in, Fuaga? Do we pull in Tyler Guyton? Do we get Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell? I love those picks and I wish that we could have our cake and eat it too, right? But I know that we need to locate the quarterback. The thing for me is that I haven't already just kind of, you know, surrendered to the fact of, oh, we're not going to get Jayden Daniels, so I don't even want to think or talk about it because honestly, I still believe that we're going to get him, right? And all the things that I've been saying, I feel are starting to line up, with other content creators, with the mainstream media. And I don't think it's because they saw my video and all of a sudden changed their tune, right? Because like I'm a small channel, right? So they probably have not seen any of my videos. And I'm also not one of those people that's like, I have to be right, and that I'm more attached to being right than what's best for the team. It's just all the signs have been there, and I've been really looking at it. And Jayden Daniels was not my first choice, right? I really actually wanted Michael Penix Jr. And then when the smoke started coming, I started looking into it deeper. I started watching more tape, interviews, all these things. It's like all signs point to Jayden Daniels, man. And that to me, I think says so much. So if you guys made it this far in the video, hit that subscribe button. I'm really trying to just get up to 300 subs. Please hit that like, throw down some comments. I'll reply to all your comments. I actually really love the engagement that I get in there because I get to hear what you guys think. And sometimes, like Raider Rebel, man, sometimes you point out where like my thinking is flawed, and I enjoy that, right? Because I'm not attached to being right. What I really like is to be able to learn, to grow, and I approach this with an open mind because I don't have all the answers, right? And so I really enjoy doing this, and I'm gonna be putting out more videos. I'll catch you guys on the next one.